Welcome to Pushing Cardboard, Episode 3. I'm Grant Lindenberg, the Pusher, and here we are with our end of the year episode. Feels a little strange to be doing an end of the year episode here already when it's only our third episode, but it's the end of December, so what are you going to do? It's that time of year when there's lots of year-end lists, best songs, best movies, best books, and of course in our little part of the universe, best war games. If you're over on BGG, you've probably seen Judd Vance, for example, does a great, his favorite 100 favorite games of every year. And he's added a nice little twist this year. He rated all his games and then he took a few rating points off the ones he hadn't played recently and pushed them down the list. So I thought that was a good idea because there's certain games that are always on my near the top of my list, but I might not have played them in the last couple of years. And it's like, if they're not being played, maybe they aren't quite your favorites, right? Anyway, this episode we're gonna have a few lists about some of my favorite games that I played this year, some of my favorite games that came out this year, whether I got to play them or not, and some of my older games that I want to get back on the table this year, or games that I'm just looking forward to. And of course, I know that there's lots of you that are interested in sort of having a more detailed look at a game or two. So after that, we'll have a first look at the new game on the French and Indian War, Bayonets and Tomahawks. But before we get to all that, a little talk about what I've been playing. Still tons of PBEM. I know it seems like a lot, and it is. I think I got about 14 games going at the moment, which is at the high end for me. Lots of commands and colors, the Ancients, the Napoleon, Tricorn, and Samurai. I've got a couple of ASL scenarios, and I've started up a small campaign game with a local friend, a campaign game from Lone Canuck Publishing on Hell's Highway. So that's interesting. I'm still playing Unhappy King Charles. Started up a new game of Stalingrad Verdun on the Volga. Somebody was looking for a new game, and I love that game so much I just couldn't resist saying yes and taking him up on a game. I'm still playing my Bayonets and Tomahawks and Nemesis Burma 1944. Still getting through my game of Imperial Struggle. And we've restarted a game that was on pause for a while, Corregidor Return to the Rock. So yeah, I've been very busy with play by email, but it's all been great, and got a few extra turns in over the holidays when work was a little less busy. On the physical table, I've pushed a few things around lately, but probably the thing that's sitting there right now is Nevsky. I'm trying to learn that solo. I want to break the back of that. It seems like the Levian command system is developing a giant pipeline, and I want to try this new game, figure it out, or this first game and figure it out and see if I'm going to be sucked into that series as well. Anyway, that's about it for what's on the table so far. So let's have a look at a few of these lists. My first list is the top games I actually played in 2021. I'll just give the top 10 here rather than the whole list. But I guess the first one is it's ASL. It's I know it's crazy. It's a game from 1985. It's at the top of my list. It's terrible. It's it's a dinosaur of a game. Been surpassed by more modern games. I hear it all, but I tell you, I love it. I played a ton of ASL from 1985 when it came out to 2000, and then I sold it all off as it had become a bit of a lifestyle game for me. I wanted to spend less time with it and play some other games, but last year I couldn't resist, and I just jumped right back in, and I'm loving it. It's still the system I judge other World War II tactical systems by. And while I enjoy lots of those other systems, this is still my favorite. My number 2 game last year was Nemesis Burma. I don't know why not enough people know about this gem from Legion Games, Kim Kanger. It's got several mechanics that make it superb. It's a chit pull game, but the chits aren't for units. They're more for like a sequence of play phases. Like you pull a chit for the supply phase, you pull a chit for the reinforcement phase, attack phase, etc. So you never know what order the sequence of play is going to come in. The supply rules are subtly sublime. Troop quality affects everything, and the VC, the victory conditions, are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's the one side is trying to impress Churchill, and the other side's trying to impress Hirohito. Just, get a copy of it, play it. I love it. Number 3 is Unhappy King Charles. The more I play, the more I like it, despite my lack of prowess at this game. It's quite unlike other CDGs you might have played. Your troops are constantly melting away. It doesn't help to assemble a large army as it becomes unwieldy to move. And I'm pretty sure winning battles doesn't actually equate with winning the war. I'm going to keep this one on the table, or the virtual table, for a while, as I just keep enjoying every turn I play of it. Number 4 is Bayonets and Tomahawks. I'll talk more about this later, but I'd just say that if Wilderness War left you a little mystified about what exactly you're supposed to do, how to get started, this might be more the game for you. It's not a light war game, but it just feels a little more straightforward than Wilderness War. And it's got an interesting combat system that's very different. It seems a little counterintuitive at first, but it makes sense once you get into it. Really fun game. So Bayonets and Tomahawks. Number 5 is Amateurs to Arms. I lost my one opponent that I was playing with. Either he ghosted me, or perhaps he thinks I ghosted him. I'm not sure. Sometimes you just lose touch. But anyway, the game has died off. But I really like this game. It's one of my favorite CDGs. I really love the giant deck. The event deck sort of means no two games are going to feel the same, and it's also got a giant map. There's just a lot of room to mess around on this game. Number 5 is Rommel of the Desert from Columbia Games. It'd probably be higher up on my list if my sole opponent this year, Dave, wasn't so damn good at the game. He beat me probably went 5-0 this year. I kept coming back even though he could clearly beat me in his sleep. But I love this game. Number 7, Caesar, Rome versus Gaul. I just got started with it last year, and I've got about 3 games under my belt so far. There's been a little talk about this thing maybe being really hard for Caesar, but I'm not sure. The game that I've got going right now, I think my opponent, Caesar, is kicking my butt. So we'll see. It's a fun game. I like the mechanics. I probably like it more than his previous CDG on Hannibal. So I'll keep playing this one for sure. Number 8's Imperial Struggle. This game, when you get it on the table, it's very fiddly. There's a million marker counters for this game. And this is one of those games that I feel it becomes much less fiddly when you play it over Vassal. So that's kind of my recommended way to play Imperial Struggle. I'm still just learning it, but I'm really enjoying it. Number 9, Stalingrad, Verdun on the Volga. I still love this game. It's a drop. I've dropped it on my sort of all-time list a little bit behind Turning Point Stalingrad. I know that the attrition in this game, it's way more realistic than TPS, but somehow the other game is still maybe a smidge more fun to play. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I've got a new game of this starting up. Maybe that'll shoot it to the top of my list. And finally, number 10, Return to the Rock, Corregidor. This is probably my favorite of Mike Ranella's area Impulse, his smaller sort of Ziploc bags size games. But, obviously I like Mike Ranella's games with both 9 and 10 being his designs. Anyway, that's it for for the games, my top 10 games that I played in 2021. Now a few shorter lists. My favorite games released in 2021, whether I got a play in them or not, Bayonets and Tomahawks for sure. Absolute War from GMT that I talked at length about last time. I'm still really looking forward to getting a real play in of that. Atlantic Chase, again from GMT. I'm still not. I don't. There's so much to like about that game. There's so much that's interesting and new, but I'm still also figuring out how much of it runs on rails. So my jury is out on that one a little bit. But like I say, there's so much to like about it. The whole trajectory system is just refreshing and interesting. So I'll keep playing that to decide. I guess the proof will be whether when I get an opposed play with that. I've played a lot of solo of it, and an opposed play will tell me. Thunder at Dawn from Revolution Games. I actually got 4 Revolution Blind Sword Systems games. So this is a bit of a catch-all for all of those. I want to get into that system and check it out. I saw the designer demo one of the games at the San Diego Historicon, and I'd bought the games before then, but seeing him demo it really made me more interested in playing it. I can't wait to get a play in of that. And then finally, another game that came out this year that I have only pushed the counters around a bit solo is Dark Summer, and I'd like to get to see if I like that. I've only played Dark Sands once. I've never played Dark Valley, but I enjoyed Dark Sands enough to go, I want to play that again, and I'm interested to see this. In terms of now, here's a list for games that are on the shelf that I want to get into this year that I haven't got a proper playing in, and this is another short list, just another 5 games. Verdun, 1916, Steel Inferno. I was happy to get that when it was still available, and some people that I really like were singing its praises. I've only opened it and set it up and have a little bit of a look at it. I really want to get an opposed play of that. Shores of Tripoli from Fort Circle Games, I think they're called. I've played this once solo, and of course look for an opposed play as well. This is a slightly simpler game, but there's still plenty there. I think it's going to be a good game, and I want to get the word out on this one a little bit. This War Without an Enemy, I've talked about that a couple times on this program. I think I saw, that's another one where I saw a demo at SD Historicon, and I can't wait to play that, and I think that'll happen sooner rather than later. Nevsky, of course, I mentioned that earlier, and For the People. I feel like I'm very late to the game to get For the People, to get an opposed play there. But that's another one that I've only ever soloed, and it just sits there staring at me from my shelf, daring me to get a real play in. And so many people, that's their go-to grand strategic American Civil War game. So I've really got to get that one played. And then a couple of older games that I play all the time, or I've played many times over the years, but haven't got a play in the last couple of years. Up Front, of course, maybe my all-time favorite game. Haven't had a play in a couple of years. The U.S. Civil War, which is, I think, this year a new edition is coming out with maybe, I don't think they've changed the rules at all, but I think there's going to be an updated rule book. And Blue versus Gray, the card game of the Civil War. If you've never played that, that's a fantastic game, unlike anything you've ever played. I guarantee it. And it's the Civil War in a deck of cards. It's great. I recommend it. So yeah, that's the games that I want to get back to this year, and that's basically my top games of the year list for 2021. All right, let's talk about a game. This episode's game is Bayonets and Tomahawks, a new game from designer and graphic designer Mark Rodriguez. This is another case where the game design and the game art is all done by one person, and just like my sort of fave designer Kim Kanger, Mark Rodriguez here does a fantastic job. It's another case where it's just so clear that there was nothing lost between the designer and the graphic artist when it's one and the same person. This was published this year by GMT Games, and comes in one of those kind of deluxe GMT big boxes. It's a beautiful game. It's a strategic game on the French and Indian War. It's a big sort of a tawny, brownish, almost mustardy color map. It's area movement. The map stretches from Louisbourg in the north down to Virginia in the south, and it's all along the coast, of course. It's got interesting counters, this game, rather than your classic half-inch or 5/8 inch square. You've got basically three shapes of counters for the units. The brigades are large square units with rounded corners. The light units and the First Nation, or Indian as they're called here, units are triangular. And then forts, artillery pieces, fleets, ships are all on circular units. And those different shapes for the different units, it becomes much more important during the combat system of this game. It's a very unique system. It's a card-driven game. It comes with a few scenarios. There's 3 scenarios that gradually get longer, and then a full campaign game. So the first scenario is just a few turns. The second scenario is I guess a full year, and then the third scenario is a couple years. So you do the between year sequence. So it all builds, but they're all definitely playable scenarios. There's 3 different decks of cards. There's one deck of cards for the Indians, one deck of cards for the French, and one deck of cards for the Brits. And the cards are also further subdivided. Some cards are for what they call the build-up phase, and some cards are for the campaign phase. So the first 3 turns of each year are build-up phase turns, and then the last 6 turns of each year are actual campaigning phase. Although you can attack during the build-up phase as well, but the cards are just a little bit different. So the French and the British will have like a small campaign deck, and then a large campaign deck and a smaller build-up deck. And when you're drawing cards during the build-up phase, obviously you draw build-up cards, and then the campaign phase campaign cards. Makes sense. The interesting thing, though, is there's always, every turn there's just one card for the Indians, but the Brits and the French each get 2 cards each turn, and they choose one that they're going to play, and then the other one goes in their reserve. And then so that the next turn they'll draw a new card, and then they'll be able to choose from the new card or the one that they kept in their reserve. So you're not stuck with just whatever one card you draw each time, other than the Indians. The Indians are played by the French. The Indians, the majority of the Indians in the game are allied with the French, although there is a couple of tribes that could go either way and start the campaign basically neutral. And if you keep out of their territory, they won't join the other side. The movement in the system is pretty straightforward. There's a couple of different there's roads and tracks basically, and the light units and the Indian units can travel anywhere, but the brigades can only travel over the roads. So there's only certain places along the coast, and not even the entire coast, that the brigades can move. As the game goes on, you can upgrade some of those tracks or paths into roads, and then the brigades can get farther inland, and that's important for the British for sure. The combat system, as I mentioned, it's a novel combat system. It's different than anything I've seen, certainly, in that Basically, all the forces come together in a combat. You separate them by type. So, and then my light units and my Indian units, say, if I'm playing the French, those are all triangular. They can only really score hits on your triangular light units. My square brigades can only score hits on your square brigades. And my circular units, the forts, the fleets, and the artillery, can only score hits on your circular units. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, but not much. But what all the units can do is all units can advance your marker on what's called, I think it's called the battle track. It's your battle marker. And so even if I have a lot of light units, say, and you only have a couple of brigades, I might not be able to damage your brigades, but I might be able to score more points on the battle track and actually win the battle and force your brigades out. That's a possibility. I just won't be able to damage them. That's they can only be damaged by other brigades, or probably there's a way for artillery to do it as well in certain roles. But it's a unique combat system that I haven't seen before, and it struck me as very odd until I started playing with it, and then I just went, "Oh, this is cool. This is for me. I love this game." As I said before, there's each year is divided into a build-up, and then before you go into the campaigning, there's you generally get some reinforcements, and there's a little bit of randomness. You put a bunch of chits in a bag, and you don't pull out all of them, so you're going to get like 4 out of 7 of what goes in the bag, or you're going to get 8 out of 12 of what gets in the bag. And some of those chits might be just a chit that says fewer troops, meaning this chit doesn't get you anything, but other ones are going to be like new brigades for you, or new light units, or in the case of the British, they also get a reinforcement phase for when the colonial troops enlist each term. So they'll get some fresh colonial troops at the beginning of campaign season every year. I've played this a bunch by Vassal, and the Vassal module is really good. It's a module, the latest one I have is 1.04. The map and the counters look great just in the game. The module's got some automation. It does things like depending on what year you're in, certain cards need to come in and go out of the deck, and it sets up the decks for you automatically, so you're not having to sort cards like that, like you would have to in the cardboard version. But it's not a really bloated module. It's not one of those really heavy ones that seem to grind along. The only thing I don't like about the module, and I've talked to the module designer about this, but there's the way he's designed the module, there's no way around it. There's a battle board. Whenever you come into combat, you leave a combat marker, a battle marker on the board, and you bring both sides' troops onto a side display called the battle board, and the dice rollers are there. So it's like having a dice tray, which it's fine when you're playing live Vassal, but for PBEM Vassal, it's one of those things where as soon as you open that screen and start rolling those dice, the cursor focus moves onto that screen, and where you were writing things on the Vassal chat log, to let your opponent know what's up or what you're doing, or to comment on what's going on, your focus is gone. You always have to click back. I know it sounds like a small thing, but when it happens all the time in Vassal, it sort of drives you crazy. But so this game basically has a dice tray, which in my books totally sucks, but that's the way it goes. On the plus side, there is a notes widget in this module, which is always good for PBM, to leave yourself some messages between sessions, which is great. And other than the dice tray battle board annoyance, it's really a beautiful and well functioning module. I recommend this game as a perfect game to play by email. I'm on as I said, I think this is my 4th game of it now. We're we're playing the third scenario, so the 2-year scenario, and it's just been a breeze. It's been great. Yeah, so that's Bayonets and Tomahawks. I totally recommend it. I hope this game gains some traction. I hope people like it. I hope it's one that enough people like that it's never hard to find a partner for, because it's a great game. Hats off to Mark Rodriguez. Time for a tip of the hat to something I saw in the last couple of weeks that struck my fancy or I really liked. I suppose if I was a more competitive sort, I wouldn't pump the tires of a site and a podcast that could be considered my competition. But I see us as all in the same boat, all just trying to spread the news and celebrate the hobby any way we can. So I want to just give a shout out to the Armchair Dragoons fellas this week. Armchairdragoons.com. The thing that really struck my fancy is they do a thing called Tuesday Newsday. Once a week they publish a fresh page of all the news in the wargaming hobby that they've managed to collect in the past week. I'm sure they get it out of press releases from all the publishing houses and designers and whatnot, and whatever they pick up. But it's it's if I had any ideas that I might put a news page on my website, I sort of feel like it's already been done. They're doing such a great job of it. If I ever was to do such a thing, it would have to be at least as good as what these guys do, because it's fantastic. They also, in addition to wargaming, table wargaming, which is, of course, my focus, there's also news on miniatures gaming and RPGs. So, it's not totally for me. Those aren't my interests, but hey, maybe they're yours, and I totally recommend check them out. There's hats off to Brant and his crew. It's a great website and a great podcast. Armchairdragoons.com. Check it out. It's great stuff. Finally this week, let's talk about rule books. There's been a lot of discussion online lately about what makes a good rule book. Some folks like a rule book that reads like good prose and teaches a game in a conversational manner. These rule books tend to have chunky paragraphs, and the presentation of the rules often follows the sequence of play. Whereas other people like rules written in what was called the case style, short declarative sentences. Not the best prose, but really easy to find a rule later on. The first, more prose style makes it easy to learn a game. The rules are written almost like a playbook, but I often find these hard to search through when I'm looking for a very specific rule. It's usually found stuck in the middle of a paragraph somewhere, and I end up reading way more than I want just to find one damn sentence. Case styles rules are much easier to zoom through to find specific rules. The downside is that they make for fairly dry reading, and they don't hold your hand at all while you learn the game generally. What's worse, many of the great games from the 80s that use this style of rules writing also used very small fonts for their rule books. Apparently they had no idea their owner's eyes would fail over time. Mine certainly have. But I definitely prefer the latter style, the case style, as I tend to go back to the rule book often. I find the rule book for a game like Band of Brothers, which uses the prose style, frustrating when I'm searching those paragraphs for a single sentence, though I have heard the designer is working on a rewrite of that rule book, so here's hoping. Because I learn a game once, but search the rules up later countless times, the case style remains my preference. Sure, there's some games where the case style rules are just badly written, but any kind of rules can be badly written. But when it's a game like Combat Commander, for example, the rules are a joy to read, especially when it's coupled with a full index. Or even a game like ASL with its giant tome of case style rules, the index coupled with the clear short sentences makes it a lot easier to find what you want when you want to find it. I know that there's been some thought that these case style rules put off younger people or newer people to the hobby, but I'm not sure that making a game easier to learn is any more important than making a great game that you can go back to again and again and again. So if I had to choose one or the other, I'm choosing case style. Thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure again. Look for us at pushingcardboard.com on the web and at cardboardpusher on Twitter. And happy gaming.